Well, let me just tell you what a privilege it is to be able to come. You know, I've heard about you guys for a long time and been doing very similar service that Rennell's done for you guys. I mean, it's your effort, you know, and World Vision helps you do it. You know, you need a little help from headquarters. And I think World Vision's a great partner because we get it done, you know, and it's proven our experience works, but without the hearts of people that want to take it on and help build the kingdom, take ground, and help make the world a better place, and water couldn't be a better thing to do. You know, some of my first experiences with World Vision were the problem of the food and water. So I just feel it kind of as a privilege. I wanted to kind of just start by thanking you guys for what you've done. I mean, this is hard work, isn't it? I mean, it's not easy. It can be, you know, especially when you're trying to enlist the help of other people and you become a representative of people that you'll never see. You know, who's made a vision trip here?
Nobody at this table.
Oh my. You then let me, on behalf of people thousands of people that have clean water because of you guys. You know what, there are days, if you've seen it in videos, the average woman in Africa walks 4 hours a day. The girls aren't in school because they're carrying water. You guys know all this because you've made presentation to everybody. But just the reality of it, when you get on the ground and you're with them, and in 31 years, you know, I made an average of 2 to 3 trips a year. And so I think I've been to Africa 7 times, and went to Senegal with Dave Dornsife when nobody knew who Dave Dornsife was,
Yeah.
Celebrating the 500th borehole in Senegal, and went out and saw just a number of villages that were completely transformed to the glory of God, and loved from the very beginning how World Vision was working in this Muslim context. It's a Christian organization, and bringing clean water regardless of a person's religion. It was just a sure demonstration of the unconditional love of God for people, you know, and you saw Muslims that just were so thankful and grateful and to get clean water for their kids in the name of Jesus, you know, and I saw the church planted there. I mean, the stories of just that one country in Ghana. Ghana is where you guys started in Mali, right? The first well was dug in Mali, right, which is where angels fear to tread. I mean, Mali is hardball. The climate is as worst you can get. The political situation, the infrastructure, getting supplies, it's just a nightmare. And we did as best we could, but it's not a great place for a partnership. It's impossible to get there. It's so hot and so nasty. Believe me, you just hardly can make it. But now Ghana is a whole other story. And on behalf of those in Ghana, given to me by the country director, they have a special cloth there. And this is kind of my attention getter here, is my vest from Ghana that I was given. This isn't really the traditional boo-boo that they wear. I have one of those, but it's heavy cotton and it's large and big, and I was traveling light to get here so I wouldn't have to check my bags. But on behalf of the Ghanaians, thousands of Ghanaians, I'm it to say thanks to you guys.
Yeah.
It's huge. I mean, it's just, and you know, and when you finally do get to go, if I just trust you would each be able to go someday. I know it's a lot of money, and I know it's a long ways away, but it's a trip of a lifetime to go to Africa and to see such a different culture that are still found so much joy and simplicity, that are so happy with so little. I mean, it's like you go to help them, and then when you get there and you experience it, it's like they helped you more as a person and with your walk with God than you help them, you know. And so to come here, I'm retired. I've had a lot of health issues from all my travel. You know, you can't walk with the poorest of the poor and not have some stick on you. And probably should do this for 5 or 10 years, but I don't know about 31. You know, I've just been in some very nasty situations and picked up a lot of stuff that they don't even know what it is. Taken a lot of poisons to kill whatever it was before it killed me, and it's cumulative, you know. So the doctors told me like years ago, get off the road, quit traveling. I tried that, and I just had to come back. So I came back for 5 more years, and I made it to 65. And then I thought, I better hang it up. So I'm here as a volunteer, and I'm going to keep helping. And that's what you guys are. And so I'm one of you. I'm not an employee. I got nothing to sell you. I'm not trying to do anything but see if I can help you, keep rolling, because it's so important to people's lives. You can't even imagine the impact. And the word says if you give even just a cup of cold water in the name, to someone in the name of Christ, that you won't lose your reward. If a cup is a reward for you guys, think about a borehole. Think about 500 boreholes. So, on behalf of a guy in Africa, I want to say an elephant of thanks. An elephant of thanks. Big. It's big. And so I don't know what I can do other than, Renell asked me that maybe I could, 30 years of experience of working with especially a lot of, I thought I'd tell you some stories about some of how other groups like yours kind of got started and how we worked and what successes we had. And maybe there's just some kind of tools for your toolkit. Maybe it's just a couple hours out of your day before your board meeting, but if I can help any, I told her now I'll come to Fargo, I'll help in any way I can. So I've got some tools. I got way more notes. I've had a lot of time to think about this. I'm retired. Every day Saturday. And so, I've just been thinking, what do I say? What do I do? And I just got a couple notes, but I wanted to start with the thank you and kind of go from there. I wanted to celebrate a little bit. If you haven't seen some of the statistics, Bill Gates did an excellent job in his 2015 letter for the Gates Foundation, which are supporters of ours, and it was my account for a while. And they just made some amazing claims that we've documented that are life-changing to me. Over the past 20 years, 2 billion people have received access to clean water. Now, the rate of extreme poverty, that's living on less than $1 a day, has been cut in half in the 30 years I served. Wow. We're just one outfit. We're the biggest, but we're just one outfit. There's a lot of good organizations. But to think that extreme poverty has been cut in half, and it's a logarithmic curve. The scale that we have been starting to work at now, because of guys like Dornsife, some people that have really stepped up, Gates and others, the scale that we're working at now, in the next 10 years or so, we could actually almost end extreme poverty in the world in the next 10, 20 years if we can keep the momentum going. The problem is once you, of course, build things to scale, you have a lot bigger need for input to keep the thing rolling. But the challenge was building the capacity to begin with. And the fact that that's been done means that it's just a matter of keeping the pipeline full. Every 30 seconds now, just with World Vision, every 30 seconds somebody gets access to clean water for the first time. They don't have to walk the 4 hours average to bring back water that's got parasites in it. They get to go to school. They've got water for agriculture. They're healthy now instead of sick. When I was in northern Ghana, let me just help you with this a little bit. You guys know what we're talking about since you haven't been there. West Africa, Ghana, is along with Nigeria, the only British colonies. I'm sorry, I moved out of frame. The only British colonies, so Ghana has a very good infrastructure. The rest of Western Africa is mostly Francophone, mostly French. The French didn't build much infrastructure. They were, they were in charge, but they didn't build roads and bridges and all that kind of stuff. Ghana had a particularly, this is called, this all kind of used to be called kind of white man's grave. Because of the climate and everything, there's a lot of malaria, there's a lot of diseases, tropical diseases, right? Mm-hmm. The worst one I saw was in northern Ghana. And this is, I don't know if you traveled with me, you would end up with a map of like a country like this. And this is a map, and there's more of them down here, so I'm going to go upside down over here, okay? These are all the ABPs of World Vision in Ghana, and when I was there in 1990, okay? And so one really neat thing is that World Vision's an international partnership, and World Vision United States isn't the only group that, that's getting partners to help us change the world. Each of these ADPs are from, this is a World Vision Germany. The budget that year was $275,000 for about 3,000 children. Australia's, working here, right? The U.S. ADPs, mostly that we worked in the old days to build this scale, was right in this area here. So we would go around and we would raise money for the wells right in here. And that's where they really learned some very valuable lessons about water development. Ghana, where you guys are mainly at, really is what gave World Vision the expertise to be one of the leading, we are the biggest bringer of clean water in the world now. But the reason that we have the experts we do and the technology and the success rate, I think you probably told them how the average well that another agency drills only lasts, a few years, where ours is averaging, a lot of years. It's because for everybody that's trained, helping us drill well, there's 2 people in the community that are trained as bush technicians on how to maintain that well. And they own the well because they had to invest in it themselves. They feel like they own it because they gave up something for it. So this was really the area where we worked for years and years and really built the infrastructure. Then we moved where it's really hard, up in here, in northern Ghana. This is mostly Christian, this is Muslim. And of course the Sahara Desert's coming down in here, and this is very dried up. And you haven't been there. You would, if you went, I could show you in this 80 right here. You always have to have a couple pictures, and you'd find ponds. You probably see that pond, and you see people with jugs on their head. They average about 50 pounds, and they walked on to get to this wherever water pooled up. They would walk and carry that home. Then in comes a drilling rig like this, and punches a deep water well, and kids like this now have clean water right there within a short walk of their home, and when you go, you get all the drilling information, where it's at, how many kids. I've never been on a flight or Land Rover bush where there wasn't an accountant in the vehicle. I mean, it's unbelievable how they account for everything. Now, I know that any organization with this kind of scale, in budget, is going to have things happen. There's going to be somebody that tries to steal the stuff here, divert it over here, whatever. And it happens, but we can correct it. The checks and balances that World Vision has in place, to me, are fantastic. And I've been in the middle of a few things that we'd find, and we'd get it corrected pretty short order. So up in the northern part of Ghana, this is probably where you guys' wells have gone in. It's probably up in this northern part. And there's no flights up there. You have to fly up there on the Ghana Air Force plane. The seat wouldn't stay up. It was just broken. It was just like you just think, wow. And you land up there, and you think you're at the end of the earth,
They do have a flight now.
They do have a flight now, yeah.
Yeah.
And they have a hotel.
Yeah.
When we were there, I'll tell you, it was pretty rough. And
You were there, weren't you?
Yeah.
yeah. And so to me, the fact that you guys are in Ghana, because I love the country and because I know so many people there, I just think it's just something you can really be glad of. This is where it all started. It's because of the Hilton Foundation giving us the matching money, and then a bunch of us sales reps raising the money for these wells, and a lot of people investing, that gave us the expertise to spread this big campaign that Renell is in charge of, that is taking water now in Ethiopia, and it's big in Kenya, Zambia. It's grown, but it's because of Ghana. It's because of the work in Senegal and in Ghana. But the experts were in Ghana, Bismarck and all these. Joe Riverson, you ever heard it? He's retired now too, but just real superstars. And
So you just saying Bismarck is a staff member
Yeah.
out of World Vision. That was
yeah, Bismarck is the name of a guy with a doctoral degree in doctorate.
It's just not the same business.
Okay. He gave me this. He was a country director, and he has a doctorate degree in hydrology.
Oh.
and he left his drilling business because we found a lot, even government guys. You guys are in government. when Zimbabwe, when Rhodesia went through their revolution. I was in Zimbabwe shortly after that. And Victor Quinda, who I brought to my Alaska team, because I think if we're going to go visit Africa, we need to bring the Africans to visit us. So I had him riding around Alaska with me. He was offered the vice presidency of Zimbabwe under the new president. And he turned it down because I can do more good for my country working for World Vision than I can as the vice president.
Wow.
And in Zimbabwe, they could just call up and the government would roll a truck. You know, there's a lot of really great cooperation because World Vision builds a base with the locals and the local governments. There's a lot of really good cooperation going on. So I just kind of wanted to cover a little bit about that, and then I wanted to tell you a couple stories. And I think this might be of help. And I want to start out with what brought me to World Vision. And my daughter, I have two daughters, Josie and Rachel. And Rachel was born, I was traveling, it was before World Vision, but I was Western manager of a big company, and I was gone a lot. And she was pregnant, and the doctor said, hey, you know, she's ripe, and we'll just push it along a little with inducement, which I would never recommend. And back then it was a pill. They couldn't. Now it's, I guess, more controlled. But anyway, this made her go into labor faster than she's supposed to, and she got caught in the birth canal. And 10 minutes later, they forceps her out, and she was severely brain injured, what they call severe profound brain injury. And I was a young Christian at the time. You can just imagine, it's kind of your worst nightmare. We went to Children's Orthopedic Hospital, and after 2 weeks of testing, they told me she was hopelessly brain damaged, and there's nothing that we could do, and your family will disintegrate. The most drug-addicted, alcoholic, divorced people group is the parents of brain-injured children. It's a hard road. And so I said, here, sign here, we'll take her away, and go on with your life. You've got another family here. And that wasn't right, So we decided, we went to our pastor, and he goes, we'll just pray about it. He said, but you got a choice. Most people in this situation just kind of start to blame God. If you've got to love, how could he allow that? And so you can either make a mountain of blessing or a mountain of cursing. And you got to choose. And so we chose a mountain of blessing. We decided, we don't know what that looks like, but we choose that. Help us, Lord. Guide us. And so we prayed, and we prayed, and we prayed. And circumstances, somebody says, here's a book about a brain-injured girl, and it told us about a controversial thing called brain patterning. Have you ever heard anything about brain patterning? But it was started out with the space program and them trying to understand how to build computers to work better like the human brain. And so they got some doctors, their names are Doman and Delicato, and they're famous brain medical doctors. And they started working with Edward Kennedy after his stroke on trying to help a stroke patient with brain development. And their theory is this, that brain cells, dead brain cells from whatever injury, stroke, or whatever, are dead. But that we only use a small amount of our brain cells. And that could be because of the fall. Maybe when we're we'll have the mind of Christ, we'll have it all. But we're created with this massive amount of brain function. But we only use a small amount. In university, they told me we use 10% of our brain cells. According to these doctors, we use 1/10 of 1% of our brain cells. So this therapy through stimulation the theory was that you could, through mass stimulation, you could build bridges you could train the cells around the damage, and you could teach or repattern the brain. And so to do that, you need intensive stimulation of all the senses to the max. And so you need a team to do that. You need 3 people every hour, because you're taking, one of the things during the hour was taking her through the cross pattern crawling motion, which is the foundation to human brain development. If a kid has trouble reading, they take him back and make him crawl again. If people walk before they crawl, they need to go back and crawl. You've got to crawl. So 10 minutes out of every hour. This therapy needed to happen every day, 10 hours a day, 7 days a week, or don't waste our time. The institute's in Philadelphia, called the Institute for the Achievement of Human Potential. And so it was where God led us, and we decided it's crazy. We live on this little island in Puget Sound. It's absolutely impossible to do this. Where would we get that many volunteers? And there was a variety of all kinds of things that you had to do during this hour, but you needed 3 people. And so we prayed about it. We said, God, if it's your will that we would do this, then you'll supply, because you'll supply whatever you ordain. I believe that. And so we just asked for volunteers. We had a church with 50 people in it. And so we put a little bolt in the bulletin, young girl, brain injured, needs volunteers for patterning 1 hour a week. Come to a meeting on Tuesday night. And then we put a couple posters around our little town called Stanwood. Thinking maybe we'd get 5 or 10 people. It's kind of like maybe you guys when you'd look for new donors, we'll get a few. And then we'll start, and then we'll build it up. And so Tuesday night we get down there, and I'm ready to make a little spiel and show them a little movie, and then we had tables set up in the back for every day. My wife had a table with a cardboard thing with 10 hours with 3 slots in each hour, and then a bunch of little like name tags where you could write your name and phone number and put it in whatever hour you might be able to volunteer. And the place was packed. I don't even know where all these people came from. There was a few from our church, but people I'd never seen or heard of. All walks of life. Young people, old people, hippies, drunks. We just had everybody you can imagine came out. And when we got done and everybody left, we looked down and every slot was full. We had 120 people signed up. And it was a miracle to me. Okay, how in the world did that happen? God did that. And what I learned was that people need to give. And all we did was serve them up a way that for something that seemed worthwhile that they could give to. It cost them an hour a week. But maybe at church they had to have credentials, to be a deacon. Maybe they needed to have, they couldn't, maybe people can't find a way to give of themselves, And I think it's kind of like the fact that we're made in God's image, and God is a giving God. He's a generous giving God. He gave his son to redeem us. And so he's created us in his image. And even though we're only using 1/10 of 1% of our brain cells, we're wired to be givers. It's better to give than receive. You guys, the most joy you probably have is when you can give somebody a gift that they love. If you could see the people in Ghana that got the water, that'd be the best gift you ever gave. But giving, that people need to give. So we do this therapy every day, 10 hours a day, 7 days a week. Rachel doesn't progress that much. She was totally blind. Because how do you measure that if a person can't tell you what they see? But she didn't even have a light reflex. She didn't have a startle reflex. That's one step above coma. So she had nothing. And after 3 months of this, one of the therapies was a bright light on, off in her eyes. And after about 3 months, her iris contracted to the light. And after another month, it turned and saw the light coming. And she learned to crawl. But that's about it. Never could connect. The mid part of her brain that was damaged, nothing could get in, and so it was scrambled and nothing could get out. So we kept going and we kept going and we kept going. But unless you're, human development says, unless you're growing pretty quick, you're never going to catch up. And she just was kind of not making it. So after 3.5 years, this whole time we went to the Philadelphia doctor, like this clinic for like a week of training and testing. And our plane tickets, my wife and I and our baby. So to Philadelphia 3 times, rental cars, hotels, and then another clinic that spun off from these guys in Los Angeles. It was closer, the Help for Brain Injured Children. Another 8 trips. Never formed a nonprofit. Just had a local banker say, well, we'll receive money. Called it Operation Rachel. And people would donate in the Rotary Club and the JCs, and people had auctions, and people did. Without us asking, we never asked. So it wasn't a lesson in fundraising. It didn't teach me anything about fundraising. But when we went to quit after 3.5 years, and we had a big party at the beach, and we had a lot of food, and we told everybody, we want to thank you so much. It's kind of like me trying to thank you for Ghana. You could never say the words. It can't be done. but we tried our best to thank them, and they pushed back. And they said, you can't stop. It's not and I discovered then it wasn't really about Rachel. It was about all the 120 people. It was about them and the transformation in their lives and in their heart toward being able to give to somebody that was helpless. And the purest form of giving is when you give and you don't get anything back. And Rachel couldn't ever talk. She lived till she was 39 years old. She never said a word. She never took a step. I changed diapers for 20 years until she lived her last 20 years in a nursing home. And but it was about those people as much as it was about our family. Now, it changed my life to have that many people giving to you. I don't know how much you've given or how much you've received. It's a lot easier to give than it is for someone to look you in the eye and say, I'm so sorry about your daughter. And they're almost feeling guilty because their kid's healthy and he's playing football, or whatever. And you have to take that $50 and say thank you. And it's hard to be the receiver. But it changed my family. And I saw this spark that I never saw in my business dealings. I mean, I made some, $9 million deals. I was the driver. I was a good salesman. And I never had, never saw the spark. It was always just money. It was just always, recognition of money, profit. But it didn't have the divine spark of God in it. But this did. These donors' ability to give into Rachel changed their lives, and they didn't want to stop. People need to give. We're wired that way. In that way, Wellspring could be as much about the donors and you guys giving of your time, your money, your reputation, your 3-hour drives. It could be more about almost you guys giving into this than it is for the people that are getting the clean water. I mean, that's the motivation to you, because you got to have water, and you wouldn't want to have the dirty water they have.